Belong to Me is a story of Lucy Trask, who's a medical examiner, who stumbles across a murder and realizes quickly she was meant to find the body. She's somehow connected to a string of murders, doesn't know how, and as they begin to investigate, she has to come clean with some secrets that she's kept for a long time, but that actually have to do with the origin of all of these murders. You Belong to Me introduces a new cast, but it also brings back a character from my fourth book called Nothing to Fear, and the character's name is Clay Maynard. And in that book, he was a private investigator. You meet up with him several book years later, and he's still a private investigator with his own firm now. And he has a partner and a small office in Baltimore, and he's actually chasing the bad guy, the same bad guy the police are chasing, but for a very different reason. And their stories begin to mesh together as the book goes on. Clay has always been one of my favorite secondary characters, and I always wanted to give him his own book. And so one of the books of the series will be his book later on in the series. So Clay comes from one of my previous books. The heroine in the book that comes after You Belong to Me, called No One Left to Tell, is Paige Holden, who I introduced in my book Silent Screams. She was the heroine's best friend. So she is also going to be introduced into this group of investigators, cops, and lawyers. I do have a lot of resources that are police officers, and as I do my research, there are a couple that I go back to time and time again and who are generous enough to give me their time and expertise. And I have friends that are doctors, and if I wanted to kill somebody this way, how would it look? My cop friends are especially valuable because not only do they provide me with procedure, sometimes they provide me with really interesting ideas, and a lot of those stem from their own lives. And they also help me to get into my heroes' heads, because sometimes I'll just go to dinner with them and just listen to them talk. And again, you kind of get it. There's a flow and emotion and a cadence to how they speak, and it gets in your head, and then they become characters. I started my career as a chemical engineer. One of the things that I did in my job was I did work processes. I figured out what people were supposed to be doing, the steps that they would take. And in doing that and listening to how people describe their jobs and then documenting them kind of gave me an idea of how books should come together. And so when I first started writing, I had very detailed flowcharts with lots of colors, and point of view was color-coded. I had Excel spreadsheets. Now I don't do that. Now I wing it a little bit. I trust myself a little bit more than I did in the early days. But I do think that the logic of what comes first, what comes second, what makes sense helps a lot. And sometimes my plot twists happen when I realize I've got a big hole and it just doesn't make sense. Well, what would make it make sense? And then a lot of times that's where I get a twist. I really love to get my reader mail, and most of it's very complimentary and just makes you as a writer feel like you've helped somebody to enjoy their day or enjoy their hours. But sometimes it goes deeper than that, and it's those times that the writing becomes more than telling a story. It's becoming a part of somebody's life in a very real and valuable way. My first book was about domestic abuse, and to this day I still get emails from mostly from women who have been victims of domestic abuse. And the one that I remember so vividly is a woman who she wrote to me, and she said, I had a husband who was abusive. I escaped, though not in the dramatic manner that your heroine did, but I did escape. And I met a wonderful man. I've been married to him for 20 years. We've had 20 good years together. And he would ask me what it was like, and I never had the words to tell him. And then I gave him your book, and now he knows. And that's a very powerful way to be able to connect with readers. And as the author of the story, makes me feel that, yes, I may have entertained, I may have educated, but I made a difference in somebody's life, and that's really valuable.